Show. Innovate, connect, and bloom.
Hi, this is Saeed with The Bloom Show. Thank you for joining. To our guests, truly appreciate it. If you are in the flower industry, if you are a wholesaler, a distributor, or a grower, and you're wondering where the Comet Sales go, who is Coronet, this is the show for you. Today, we have the man that will have all the answers for you, and that is Chris Beals, the CEO of Coronet, of Comet Sales. I guess I'm going to find out more information too. So I'm really excited to finding out more information. I myself have a bunch of questions. So if you have questions, bring them. We're really looking forward to having questions. Why? Because this show is by the floral community, for the floral community. So an important part is to hear your questions, answer your questions, and then to hear from professionals and experts and leaders in our industry. So I have so much to learn about Chris myself, and I can't wait to share Chris's story, Comet Sales story, Coronet story, and all the other all the other companies involved, which is a great innovation. And as you know, the Bloom Show says it: innovate, connect, and bloom. Also, stay till the end because we have great news about the Bloom Together event, great news about Expo Floor, and some amazing things that the Bloom Show and New Bloom Solutions and Above All Flowers are doing together, and things that are gonna most probably add value to your business and to your life, and we hope. And we do ask you to please subscribe, as it shows that you support the show, you enjoy the show. It shows that the guests that you support the show. And most importantly, feel free to share this show with all your customers. Why? Because information is valuable. So if you have customers wondering about what's happening, wanting more information, how they could dive in, how they could use this innovation, we get asked all the time. From now on, I'm going to start sending them this video so that there's a way for you're adding value to them. It's not all about sales. Sometimes it's about sharing information. So without further ado, please allow me to introduce and have, which is my pleasure, to have Chris Beal on the show. Thank you.
The Bloom Show. Innovate, connect, and bloom.
Chris, sir, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for coming on. Truly appreciate you sharing your time. As I said earlier, at all the conventions, I'm always looking for you, but never get to find you. But today's a great time to pick your brain and to share with everybody else. So truly appreciate you today.
No, thank you.
So Chris, I always let the guests introduce themselves. You've been in the industry with us for about 3 years now, right?
No, only a little over a year now.
Okay.
So I joined in April, May of last year. So just by way of background, I come from a background in doing on the investment community side, and then on the operations side, sort of running companies in that are a mix of SaaS, e-commerce, payments, marketplace, sort of that spectrum of things, but usually focused on complicated vertical spaces with complicated products and really tightly knit supply chains, which is the floral industry in a nutshell.
I love that you say complicated. I love that you say complicated. So let's get it. I always ask questions out of information too. How complicated is the flower industry versus other sectors you've been in?
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, it starts with the product, and I think in the floral industry you have a product, you have sort of an almost infinite number of varieties. You have breeders coming up with new types of flowers all the time, and then sort of it's not a homogenized, commoditized product. There's a wide difference. It might be a Freedom 60. But there's a wide difference in terms of where it came from. There's a wide difference based on how it was handled, a cold chain that wasn't interrupted. And so it's sort of three-dimensional chess. You have what is the product, who made the product, and then what are the attributes of how it was handled moving through. And that's a very, I think, dry and clinical way of describing it. But one of the first things that I sort of looked at when I came aboard, especially with us trying to sort of harmoniously integrate for companies, is we need an idea of master taxonomy of products so we can start to get normalized inventory across different companies, different systems. And then from there, how do you take all the things that a flower buyer would do, or you go to any importer and you look at the sales floor, the procurement floor, and they've got flowers sitting back in the middle of the floor so they can see them opening. How do you start to bring that into a digital context? How do you start to show those photos or videos or information and go deeper? But it starts with what's the product and how do you match that product across different companies, different layers of the supply chain?
And that goes in well with this next question is, can you share the vision behind Coronet and how the integration, I hope I'm saying it right, Axerrio, Floral Computer System, which many of us know it by Smart, Comet Sales, and UNOSOF align with that vision? You know, how does it align with that vision? What is the vision, if we could share it in layman's terms?
So let me start with the vision. You know, at a broad level, and some of this currently exists and some of it's to come, but it's to effectively provide a spectrum of products that customers can choose to use, all of them, some of them, a mix of them, that effectively is like an ERP, so like an Oracle, Shopify type tools, so something that lets you do e-commerce or digitally transact, take what you have and make it available to customers, current ones, or ideally find new ones. And that gets to the third prong, which is, how do we start to provide tools like HubSpot or Salesforce CRM? So CRM tools or customer relationship management tools, where we can help sellers have voice or sort of dialogue with their customers. You should buy this. We have new products. You should check these out. Whatever, we haven't seen you in a while. Do you want to come back and buy? And so what I think of us in the vision of what we're doing across the four companies really comes down to two things. One is ease and simplicity of doing all the things you're doing in an analog context digitally. And the second thing is interoperability. So buying from farms in different jurisdictions, making it easy. As an importer, selling to wholesalers in different states and different areas, making it easy to show them new products that you have. With this idea of our K2K or E2E network, letting importers or wholesalers show products their suppliers have on the same shopping surfaces as their on-hand inventory. So letting them sell products they don't even have, which we know increases margin by 20 to 30%. And I'll leave that aside for now, but it's ease and simplicity and interoperability. And sort of for us as a company, why combine these? Part of it is it's easier to combine companies when you have one engineering team working, but it was this idea that we could build really cool solutions. And we can talk about what we're doing with the engineering product team, but we build something once and have it leveraged by customers across all these solutions, which when you can sort of build something and have it used by a much broader audience, you can spend more money to have bigger engineering teams and build more sophisticated stuff.
So are all, Smart System, Comet Sales, UNOSOF, how are they interact together? Are they going to interact together? Or are they just going to stand alone in themselves? Because there's a lot of work to do with each of them in itself.
So some aspects of the system, you leave alone. People are used to the workflows and the screen looking the way it does. But what we are starting to do, so we have the first tranche of farms going live with the ability to sort of digitally transact seamlessly between UNOSOF and Comet and UNOSOF and Axerrio. And so what that is sort of people wake up and use the system the same way they've used it before in terms of managing their farm inventory, their projections, their availability, and now moving to a place where they can kind of one-click connect with importers in a bunch of different jurisdictions and start and sell that inventory digitally. But more than that, as opposed to just dealing with the procurement team, they're letting that product, to the extent that business is using, K2K or e-commerce, effectively sell through directly to the customers of their customer to have those products show up. And so there's not too many places where you can sort of show a buyer what products you have. And not only do they buy it for their on hand, they're also putting it on their e-commerce surface. So their customers are shopping it directly themselves. And so it's in terms of the integration, it is that inventory integration I mentioned. So that's live right now between UNOSOF and Comet and Axerrio with beta customers.
And if I may real quick, Chris, sorry to cut you off, but to explain to the audience, UNOSOF does what, right? Because we all might be in our little bubble of Comet Sales. That's all we've used.
Let me explain. Thank you for slowing me down. So UNOSOF is a farm production management ERP solution that's used by a large number of farms currently across Ecuador, Colombia, a little bit Africa, a little bit the US. And we're working to expand that. We just launched a new product that's started rolling out last week, called UNOSOF Sales, which, to the extent you want to manage your production elsewhere, is a sales management tool for farms. And it has all the advantages of upload your inventory, manage your pricing real time, and let people buy digitally. We then have Comet Sales, which started as an importer solution, but is now the leading solution for importers, wholesalers in the Americas, as well as a few customers in other jurisdictions. And that effectively lets you manage your inventory, so an ERP, but also lets you do e-commerce. And then this idea of selling the product of your suppliers, which is K to K for Comet to Comet.
Perfect.
And then we have Smart Systems, which is Floral Computer Systems. That's a solution, the ERP solution, and now we're connecting it in for more of an e-commerce solution as well. That's used by a large number of sort of mid-sized wholesalers in the US. So that's a wholesaler specific solution. And then we also have Axerrio, which is one of the leading solutions for importers and then wholesalers, or cash and carries as they call them in Europe, including a number of importers and suppliers to the mass market segment over on the European side. And so when you look at those solutions, it fits really beautifully because they all cover different segments and cohorts, but those customers all want to transact with each other. They all want better solutions. They'd love to do digital payments versus calling people to chase them down. Hey, you're net 30, where's my payment? And so that's the beauty of this, is if we can just connect these systems together, and we're executing on it really well right now, but by connecting these solutions together and then giving power tools like the payment suite that we launched, that we build once and launch everywhere, that's sort of the magic in a nutshell.
So one improvement kind of ripples through all the others. So the payment suite, you actually just launched it, and all four of them benefited from that, correct?
Exactly. So we're at different stages of the rollout. One caveat to that, so we have on the roadmap to build a cross-border solution. So that'll be something farms and the UNOSOF farms can use if they don't have domestic, if they don't have a domestic bank. And that's a cross-border payment solution that is cheaper and more secure than wires. But then for our other customers, that Comet or Coronet payments, I'm still getting used to the new name. Coronet payments lets them invoice and bill, but then receive payment digitally. But the big advantage of that is it's not just credit cards. So it's a cheaper product for most customers on a credit card basis. It also supports digital ACH with PCI compliant storage of payment info. And as we all know, an ACH is way cheaper than a credit card. And if you can just let customers pay that way digitally, we know from survey work, a lot of customers are willing to pay via ACH.
Yeah, and it's COD, it's paid in advance. It's great. It's great. So I work with a wholesale consult with a wholesaler, and the name, there's a name, but they have Smart System. How would it benefit them for them to get involved with, and I call it Smart, I'm sorry, I don't know if you call it Floral Computer System. So I call it the Smart System. So what would benefit them to get involved in another system? Or is it, if they hang out there, they'll have all the benefits? How does that work if you have a wholesaler or even a distributor thinking? I also have a couple of distributor companies that are asking, what's up with Comet Sales? Well, how should we worry? They're on Comet Sales K to K, but should they be looking at anything else?
Yeah, so I think so let me give you an example. This idea of sort of a Shopify for flowers product. So this idea that you can we can give you a tool that would let you create a shoppable e-commerce experience on your own website in less than a day, in a matter of hours. That's something we've been thinking about quite a bit. It's simple to say, it's complicated to do, but that's something where we can build it once, and then all we have to do is read off the real-time inventory and pricing pipelines that each of the ERPs have. And that's a great example of something where we could let you have a lightweight e-commerce enabled website where you can start to market to customers and say, come to our site, sign up, and we can add things like self sign-up flows where if somebody wants to apply to be able to buy, that's done digitally. If you go to most wholesaler websites, either you have to have a login before you go there, or it will have something like call us if you want to sign up to buy online. And I can tell you from having done e-commerce for a long time, the conversion rate on the call us to transact thing is like close to nil. People just aren't, people are so used to in this era using their single sign-on credentials from Google or Apple or Facebook and just signing up, even if there's an extra approval step like upload your tax ID or give us some information on your expected purchasing volume or whatever. There's no reason that can't be handled digitally. But a great example where we can build that once and a smart systems customer could use that. We're working to integrate K2K and e-commerce from this shared network in so that smart systems, and there's a product we have in beta right now to let smart systems customers sort of purchase more easily digitally from the broader network of their customers. Again, this is against our suppliers. And again, this is a very important note. We're a passive overlay. Like Shopify won't in and of itself find you new customers. It won't do whatever, but it gives you the tools to do that yourself. And it's in the same regard. What we're trying to do is enable a wholesaler to better digitally purchase from the people they purchase from in terms of them finding new customer or finding new suppliers, prospecting, that sort of thing. That's where they go to trade shows. And all of that works the same way it does in the analog world. But if they're already transacting with them, we know that quantitatively there's a lot of advantages to transacting digitally versus via WhatsApp and PDF messages and that sort of thing.
Fantastic. It's really exciting to know about the Shopify kind of thing as well. And have you solved that problem yet? Or not problem, have you improved it where you could sign in and register? Because I remember as a salesperson, it was you had to go to your manager, then your manager had to go here, and then by the time you got back. So how more efficient is that? And is that launched already?
So the self sign-up piece hasn't been launched. It's on the roadmap to launch before the year is out. I think that's something happy to give more color on, but we've added a lot to our engineering and product teams. And so I think last quarter, we probably built and shipped more features and functionality than we did in the entire year and a half before that combined. And so we're building and shipping faster. But yeah, that self sign-up thing is the beta of that within the Comet network is going live, sometime in the next 2 months, I think.
Wow,
and then from
awesome,
there,
man.
we can then project that out to other surfaces and other features and that sort of thing.
I look forward to that. We've built out a few websites for our clients, and one part of my selling pitch has been I could help increase the Comet sales signups, and we were able to create one page that had a little sign up thing, a little quicker of an action, even to sign up to it or even to fill it out. So that is a real pain point with customers wanting that to be improved, because I do see a lot of success there.
There's so much we can do there and that we have on the roadmap, and part of it is working with customers and hopefully with their advisors to help them do this. Because to give you an example, I came from a background in another industry where I've done this. I've overseen building these Shopify type tools and self sign up, lightweight CRM, but then it takes a good smart strategy around how to use those tools. Again,
you have to bring your business.
Getting back to the concept of these tools won't do anything on their own. Our head of product came from the LATAM equivalent of DoorDash or Uber Eats. So he's done this, a bunch as well. But yeah, I think, the fascinating thing is we see a real barbell effect across our customer base at all levels, but it's really evident in the wholesaler layer where we have some wholesalers that do over 50% of their sales online now. And they are some of the most successful wholesalers by any metric you look at. And then we have a lot of wholesalers that are down at they're doing sub 10% of their sales online. And the funny thing is when we go and do product research and talk to those sub 10% wholesalers, they have the same tools as the wholesalers that are doing more than 50%. But I often find there's this belief of, well, my customers won't shop online or they don't. And sort of they're not. There's a bunch of success steps I've found that have been missing that they could be taking. And so we're looking at things to build into the product to help do that automatically for them or make the hurdle easier. But, anyone who says, I don't think people are willing to buy flowers online, especially at the wholesale segment, I can say with definitive concrete proof that is not true based on some of the most successful wholesalers out there. And more than that, they're showing, I don't care what metric it is, average order value, order frequency, acquisition cost, SG&A, sales and marketing, all those metrics with digital sales.
I'm sorry, I think your internet's a little spotty,
Oh,
so you're
sorry.
freezing here and there. No worries, no worries. Just a heads up. I truly believe that if you build it, they might not come. You have to make the effort to bring them to your website, your social media, your email newsletter, and you have to be consistent. So 100% of what you're saying is, yeah, I can bring you the tools, but who are you going to use to bring you the customers? Like we do SEO for our clients and we bring them the customers, but that's another topic that you have to work with the company as well. So intentionality is key to anything. You can't just build it and hope they come. They're not waiting in the cornfield. They're not waiting.
Yeah, I think, and the funny thing is that, you know, sometimes a fear or a concern I'll hear is people will say, you know, if we go digital or we do digital sales, that's like the great equalizer and we're no different than anyone else. And nothing could be further from the truth. The more powerful the tools you give, the more things you give for CRM or for digital sales, or the easier you make it for your procurement team to nimbly buy digitally, the more you actually see good, solid operators, either with internal talent or with a good network of advisors around them, differentiate themselves and be able to differentiate themselves from people who aren't putting that same effort in. And I think you're absolutely, like the idea of SEO strategy, the idea of customer activation. You know, one thing we've been thinking about quite a lot are what are the tools we can give to our customers, whether they be wholesalers, importers, or farms, where they can say, hey, you haven't shopped in a while, or better yet, based on data, you haven't shopped in a while, why don't you come back? Here's a special for you. Here's a deal. Here's a coupon. Or we just got back into inventory, you know, those toffee roses that you love so much, hurry up, shop fast. And that directionally, in terms of vision and where we're going, those are the types of power tools we want to give to our customers to basically take all the great things they're doing and let them be able to sort of accelerate it.
So going into that question, kind of, we're in the e-commerce world. What are some trends you're seeing in the floral industry regarding e-commerce? Because I imagine you're keeping your eye on trends and seeing what others are doing. What are the trends you're seeing, and how is it benefiting the industry?
So a couple things. Is we've been looking at various factors and in kind of a grab bag of fun things we've seen. So we're seeing that generally when we're seeing a differentiation or sort of a gapping in the middle, where we're seeing really successful e-commerce users increasingly separate and widen the gap from those who aren't. Like when we look at the distribution of e-commerce sales versus total sales, we're starting to see a pretty wide clustering of people that are sub 10% and then people who are over 50%. And there's sort of like a quiet valley in the middle between those two extremes. And I think that we're starting to think of ways where I think it takes real intentionality and real shift to move from the 10% bucket to the 50% bucket. And I think the reason you don't see a gap in the middle is once you make some of these structural changes, you just by default move over to the 50% side. We're getting a lot of feature requests, and we're talking to a lot of customers on the buy side on the e-commerce thing who are increasingly saying, they're coming to us with feature asks, but they're basically saying, we don't want to buy analog anymore. We want to move to a only digital purchasing future. And the reasons I hear for that are different, but we're seeing on the buy side, we're seeing a acceleration towards a deeper e-com penetration with some customers, where again they're kind of trying to. We're seeing large scale shift towards them saying we want to buy everything digitally, and there's a couple reasons for that. I think, I think there's starting to be, and we see this in some of the data, but the idea that when you call and haggle, you're getting a better price than you would get online. I think there's some quantitative validation that that's probably more in most buyers' heads than it is actually in reality. And there is still some of that, especially on remnant inventory. But as a whole, when we look at the average sale price on offline and online, the data is noisy, but generally showing that it's not really clear that you're getting a better deal. And there's a pretty good segment of the data that shows you're paying more when you call versus just paying online. The other thing that we're seeing is time shifting. So we're seeing that when you enable digital sales, we're seeing a lot of procurement activity after hours. So we're seeing login sessions and purchasing happening at times when there wouldn't be a salesperson around. So one thing we've been thinking, partially why, being able to buy and sell from Europe digitally or from Africa digitally is so important, is, people work a finite set of hours. And so if we see this activity that we're seeing now where buyers are going home, maybe pouring themselves a glass of wine and buying, there's an interesting phenomenon there, which is 100% of those orders are digital, because there's nobody to talk to if you call in or that sort of thing. And you can email, but most of what these buyers want is confirmation, instant gratification, or more accurately, instant reduction of stress. My purchasing is handled, it's done. I'm not waiting for someone to get in tomorrow and tell me, oh, sorry, we manually typed in another order. And then I think the other thing, we're seeing is that people who have photos and sort of digital merchandising, those products sell better than things that don't have photos or don't have digital merchandising. So how you describe the products, whether you put a photo, makes a difference, generally to the tune of about a 5 to 10% improvement in conversion.
Wow. That's incredible. And each little piece of it, 5% here, 10% there, 15% there, then it starts increasing your opportunities. And one thing I do want to say to all go ahead, what are you going to say, Chris?
I was going to say, well, and I left off the craziest factor, which is for this K to K or E to E, being able to synthetically sell the product of your suppliers. And if you're an importer, cross-stock it, not even put it into storage, move it through quicker. What we found in the data sample that we looked at is, on an absolute basis, somewhere from a 20 to 30% increase in margin for those orders, from elimination of dump, reduction in mishandling. And you start to add the factors up. Because when I first saw that number, I said, you guys did the math wrong. This can't be right. This is an insane. I'm not going to go out and say this to people unless I can see the math, the backing math. But when you start to parse it and look at you look at cold storage costs per day, you look at dump rates, which, while they vary widely, are never de minimis.
Fingerprints.
Yeah. And you eliminate those, that's where you see the improvement. And so this idea of this E to E network or K to K network, and selling not just on hand, but, selling the inventory of your vendors as if it was your own, it's huge.
Yeah, it's great, and I've seen the potential. And I also want to say to my fellow salespeople, some people might get concerned that it's like, God, you're going to take my job away as a salesperson, right? Because it automates. But in all reality, and I also say this to wholesalers, distributors, growers, and everybody, there are different types of customers. There's that customer that will never go, sorry, Chris, but there's that customer that won't want to buy on Comet Sales, but will always make that phone call. Or that customer that will buy on Comet Sales, but wants to make sure that you're looking out for them and will check in with you on the order. So there's always a customer for everything. You'll never lose a use for a salesperson, right? Never, because that salesperson has to maintain that relationship, go to the trade shows. So the tool is great. I've actually seen it go from X percentage or no sales to being one of my top customers just by opening that door. So it's highly recommended to try it and be curious about it. It might not work for you, but it is always worth giving it a try. So question, because Comet Sales is Comet Sales. They've been around for a while, and I consider one of the startup pioneers in the flower industry. My hat goes off to the original founder as well. But question is, what role does Comet Sales play in Coronet's overall strategy, and what can we expect from it moving forward? I know we've covered a lot of ground, and we might cover ground twice. But
Look, one thing I'll say is, by the way, I hopefully my connection is better. We take security very seriously at Comet. I realized I actually had my work VPN on, which I need to be able to log in and see stuff. So I just turned that off. So hopefully my connection is better. So Alex, the founder of Comet, part of the reason that I took this job is he and I think very similarly. I talk to him every week. We're sort of, I think, in many ways, spiritually cut from the same cloth. And so Comet's a very central. Yeah, he's great. He and I, get together in person whenever we can. But in terms of where Comet sits in all this, Comet's a very central part of the system. A lot of these network or shared interoperability components are running on pieces of Comet that are getting sort of projected outwards to the other companies. But it, you know, it is a merger between all the companies. And so like a lot of the taxonomy work was handled by the UNOSOF team. But, you know, Comet is, it's a web-based lightweight framework where that's really scalable for adding more engineering people and us expanding the capabilities really quickly. So in many ways, Comet's kind of, you know, the glue that binds in a lot of regards. Like the lightweight procurement tools we're building are based on Comet. But I don't say that to diminish the importance and the impact of all the other companies, but where we're going increasingly is to a lightweight integrated set of components that commonly run all of the different software systems, and Comet's got a really great set of those.
So Comet Sales is kind of the center of it, and then everything kind of works in with it and improve. You know, they all make each other stronger, I guess.
And I'm probably gonna have some employees with pitchforks when I get back. It's a good connective layer, but I don't want to diminish the absolute sort of dominance of what UNOSOF's built in the farm segment, and sort of smart systems really meeting that kind of mid, you know, SMB level wholesaler, and Axerrio sort of, you know, some of the biggest, most well-known names in Europe are running on Axerrio. So they each, you know, they're each doing great things. But I think when it comes to like web-based connectivity pieces, Comet really pioneered a lot of that.
And there's a question that's kind of been lingering, and I've heard it a few times, is how is Coronet adapting and changes to consumer behavior? Are we ever seeing an opportunity for working with florists or any consumer-facing models at any point? That's a, you know, that's a careful question, but
yeah.
It's a good question, but
yeah. So I think so I gave a talk at SAF last year that was on basically how the web shops for florists needed to improve a lot, and that they weren't good on very basic things like asking for the location and delivery versus pickup for a shopper at the start of a shopping session. But the point is, I caveated that with saying I'm going to present a lot of problems here, and as Coronet, I work for a company where we don't offer any solutions. Like, we are very much a B2B company. I think I really see our mission being making it way easier for wholesalers to sell to their customers, and those customers are overwhelmingly florists. I think eventually I could see us finding ways to tie into the software systems that florists are using to make it easier for them to purchase, because I do believe that a lot of the rise of mass market as a percentage of consumer market share in the Americas, this might be a very controversial thing to throw out, but I think has been created by sort of often an inability or poor job by florists of meeting consumers where they are, especially with millennials and younger, which is people want to buy stuff on their phones and get digital gratification. And I think that accelerated with Instacart and DoorDash and others, because in most jurisdictions, when you type your zip code and go on those platforms, and I used to, you know, work with the new market development teams at them in past jobs, but when you go on there, you're generally going to see mass market inventory and not florist inventory.
Makes sense. Good. Well said. So question here is, what advice would you give the floral industry looking to leverage, and this is our final question, so get ready to ask any questions, audience, but what advice would you give to the floral industry looking to leverage technology for their floral business and floral growth?
And you mean for florists or for just in general?
The whole entire industry. We are in an industry that hasn't innovated so much, or now they're starting to innovate. So there's some, you know, judgmentals and people that are late to convert. What advice would you give them?
First of all, I think everybody needs to adjust to the fact that, all things being equal, everybody would like to purchase digitally. It doesn't mean you can't have a call later to ask about how their kids are doing, or you can't call them afterwards to upsell on the order. But I've had a shockingly wide number of conversations with buyers and sellers buyers at every level of the supply chain, where they consistently say, you know what, if the inventory is there and I can do it digitally, my life is way easier that way. And the margins are getting tighter here. I need to move faster. Buying digitally equals speed. Certainty equals margin. Certainty equals stuff I can then sell out the other side more quickly. And so I think anyone who's saying, well, e-commerce doesn't work, or I don't think my buyers want to buy digitally, I can't say any blunter than this. Like, that is not right. And we're seeing a separation between the people who believe that and those who realize everyone wants to buy digitally, and they are increasingly growing market share. the other thing I would say is sort of e-commerce doesn't happen on its own. It takes effort. And if you don't know how to do it, we want to provide more services to help you, more tool tips, more learnings, or, get other people to help you. Are a seller, whether you're a farm, an importer, a wholesaler, and let's say you have a universe of 1,000 customers, and you say, we have e-commerce, and 50 people log in, you have two jobs. It's to coach those 50 people to buy more and to figure out anything possible you can do to get those other 950 people logging in and shopping with you. There are a lot of strategies for doing that, but sort of, I've seen this false equivalence of sort of, well, the 950 not logging in means that they don't want to buy digitally. And the reality couldn't be further from that. It's the invite email got lost in the spam folder. You're not telling them what they can get when they buy digitally. You're not doing life cycle marketing and marketing with them to try and get them to come do it. You're not explaining the benefits. You're sending the invite to the wrong person. You're emailing the owner, and the buyer has a different email because they're not the owner. And so, that would be the other thing I would say is just good e-commerce takes effort. Launching your e-commerce is the first step in the journey. There's a lot more steps beyond that, and there's gold on the other end of that journey.
And I appreciate that. Is you said something I had kind of mentioned, it is intentionality. Many years ago, Esmeralda Farms had AS400, and we launched this as well. And it was a great program, and you could buy from there, and the wholesalers could buy. But if you weren't being intentional and going to the wholesalers and sitting down with them and coaching them and walking them through it and really investing in that, they weren't converting. So, and now it's much easier because digital is everywhere. I remember back in the day, they would send you a picture through a fax for a credit. Now there are phones out there, and everybody, and now it changed within 3 years. What are you going to say, Chris?
Well, now I was going to say, you actually mentioned a great example with that. So say you didn't reach the procurement person at the wholesaler, or maybe they had an off week, they were sick and they didn't buy as much as they should have. Normally that's going to be a zero in sales for the importer or the farm that week. But with something like K2K or E2E, the end purchasers of that wholesaler can still be logging into the e-com portal and buying that inventory. And so it detensions that education cycle of procurement teams, or if the procurement team just estimated incorrectly, or there's a big wedding order that came in, there's ways to digitally backfill that. And that's another thing we see is, like, if you're not taking that channel or you're not, availing yourself of that channel, it's very lossy. You're losing out on sales because procurement teams don't want to overbuy and they don't want to dump.
Yeah, 100%. It's just the intentionality of use the tools we have. So any questions from the audience? Love to take some. If you're a little shy today, that's all right. Last week we had some great questions, but if you want to ask some questions, please feel free. But you've done a great job of covering everything. I kind of skipped a bunch of questions because we covered the questions as we were talking. So I was trying to make up my own questions as we go. But as we maybe waiting for the audience to chime in, where is Coronet going next? So where are they going to go? Are we going to see them at SAF, or not SAF? Are we going to see them at Expo Floor? Where can we find out more information?
Yeah, we'll be down at the trade show down in Quito, or just outside Quito. We're always at the WFSA events. We're just at SAF. We will be we'll be at IFPA over in Holland coming up in November. My wife loves this time of the year. I think last year I traveled every other week. We're trying to get out and do more client visits and make sure that we internalize their pain. We've added to our product and engineering team ton of senior people from Mercado Libre, which is like the Amazon of LATAM, from places like Despegar, which is like the Kayak and Expedia of LATAM. And so I think really what we see ourselves doing is all the great things that customers have come to love from these companies, but doing it faster, doing it based on more quantitative empirical data, and doing it with a view that our mission or our job to customers, if they want to come and use us, is we're here to grow their revenue and grow their margin. And that's the name of the game. And we need to build features and tools that help them do it. And in some cases, if it's hard for them to do that, that potentially help automate that for them. Help automatically send the reminder emails to their customers who haven't bought in 30 days when they used to be a week over week buyer. And so in terms of the vision, that's the type of stuff we want to build and where we're going. And so I think, I think when you do a rebranding like Coronet and you're gluing all this, people go, well, what's different? What's going to be there? And I think this is part of why I took the job and it worked so well with Alex was it's doing all the stuff we were doing, just more of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have a question from Equimia Flowers. Will Comet Sales or Comet or Coronet offer integration to other e-commerce soon?
Yeah, so the same framework that we're using to make the four systems we have interact is a framework that we can then use to help power integration with other systems. The other piece, I don't know in terms of what the question meant in terms of e-commerce is. We actually have the ability to, and we've been leveraging it more. So letting businesses that are using a different ERP effectively sell into that E2E network. So effectively wrapping their existing ERP with integration so that the business can manage and do the selling part without having to switch ERPs. Because that was one of the things we realized is look, great example. Someone's on an AS400 system. Yeah. It's very hard to sell digitally off of an AS400 system. And there are a lot of them in this industry. And so one of the things we looked at is with this E2E framework is being able to pull inventory out of the AS400, let it be sold digitally, and then inject purchase orders, invoicing data back into the AS400 system. And so we're actually working with a customer right now that's using a third-party ERP, and we're going to help them power Farm Direct and e-commerce, both of their supplier inventory and their on-hand inventory, while using that third-party ERP.
That's great. That's great. And again, AS400 was, I don't want to say that one of the first, but it was one of the first that we had something. It worked too. It was great, and it was a nice large percentage of sales coming through there. And so a lot of my sales came through there. Yeah. Because of the intentionality of saying, hey, jump on, I'll double check your order. And you wake up in the morning and all of a sudden you have a good $6,000 order, and like, hey. It's
a great feeling. That's one of the things. Actually, the UNOSOF sales product is directly equivalent to that. It's intended to work with farms that are either not using an ERP or they're using another inventory system. And it just lets you map your inventory to our master catalog, and then you control price and quantity, and you can connect with your customers or importers or whoever, wherever, with very simple functionality and start receiving those orders. It's intended to be a very lightweight overlay, a sales power tool or a power tool for your sales team that's not your ERP or your other sort of production system, and handle some nice things that are flower specific, like barcoding on those boxes that can then be read by the importer to scan through and stuff like that.
Yeah. I remember we were one of the first Comet Sales out of Royal Flowers, and that was a great experience. It was, you're a little nervous, but then when you jump on it and you get it, it flows. And one of the best things, and this was years ago, one of the best things was the pictures. Send me that picture, and right from Comet Sales, you can send the picture, and that'll allow the customer to get online, see the picture, and then, okay, cool, let me have 2 boxes. So that was very helpful.
I was just at the Sun and Fun, the Cal Growers Association event, and I had at least 3 people on the sales side at all different levels of supply chain come up to me wearing their golf outfits from doing the golf event and saying, I love you guys so much. One of them said, I think I got 100 orders while I was out on the golf course today because of you guys. Like, I love it. And that's the type of thing that warms my heart, because that's not supplanting the purpose. There's a difference between order entry and sales, and sort of get out of the order entry side and then call those people back and say, hey, I saw what you bought. You want to get another 10 boxes of the purple hydrangeas or what? There's upselling, there's relationship building, but like being able to be on a golf course, or you have a sick family member and just have the orders continue to come in. It's a magical feeling.
It's a lot of fun. Chris, final wrap. I usually do a fun little quick questions. It's kind of goofy. It's just to get to know you and people to get to know you and find if there's anything in common. You're up for it?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Sushi,
sure.
Pizza, or macaroni?
Oh boy. You know what? I'm a pizza. Pizza. I would say it's pizza. And more than that, I've been kind of geeking out on Detroit style pizza and trying to find Detroit style pizzas, which is like that kind of flat like a flat square style pie, but the origination of it was cooked in oil, like basically oil drip pans. And so it gets this fried kind of cheesy edge. And so, yeah, I grew up in Pennsylvania outside Philly. And so there's a long history of pizza. So I've always been a pizza guy.
Are you an Eagles fan?
I'm an Eagles fan. I now live in Los Angeles, so it's sometimes a fraught topic, but yes, I'm a Philadelphia sports fan.
All right, we have the green for you here in the background, as you can see. And what's your favorite band? What music do you listen to?
I listen to everything, including living on an apple orchard during COVID, where I went through a country phase. I listen to everything, I would say, and this is not because Comet is based out of Colombia, but I have been listening to a lot of like reggaeton lately. Reggaeton. And so I'd say I would say I'm probably a bad person to ask that question because I listen to everything. And I have 2 young kids. I have a 1-year-old and 4-year-old. So I'm going through the cycle that every parent goes through, which is my wife yelling at me about songs with bad words playing.
Got it.
Especially with my son in the back, who is very good at mimicking and singing those lyrics. Sometimes the song's not even playing. So I'm going through the grief cycle of not being able to listen to all the songs I want to listen to because my son, my son's repeating the lyrics.
That's hilarious. And you got to be careful. They're sponges. So nice interview. Ann says, or AM says, nice interview.
Thank you.
And I had one more question. Other than being a fan of reggaeton, which no one might have expected, what's one interesting thing about you that no one might know? Like a hobby or a strength or past experience?
So I'm a climber and outdoors person, pretty hardcore. So like over Labor Day, I got my wife to come with me and did 35 miles backpacking in the backcountry at Yosemite.
Wow.
I've gone glacier climbing in the Andes, rock climbing, ice climbing. With the kids, I'm kind of getting my wings clipped a little bit, but a pretty solid, like kind of throw everything on my back and go camping and hiking type person.
That's awesome, man. So I appreciate your time. Truly. Is there any last things you want to say?
No, I would say I'm a sponge. If anybody listening wants to chat with me ever, I love talking to customers. I love visiting customers. I love visiting non-customers. I think the only way that we're successful is sort of living and breathing the flower industry, the good things and the bad things that our customers are experiencing, and sort of internalizing them and figuring out how to solve. So the one thing I would say is I'm always hungry for talking to more people in the industry, and whether that's touring their facility, having a drink, whatever.
That's great. And then what's the website now? Is it Coronet? Do all of them have separate websites?
All of the companies have their own separate websites. Right. Each of them are their own solutions. So there's still Comet Sales and Axerrio and Floral Computer Systems. We are launching a Koronet.com website. It is not live yet, but it will be coming in the near future. But that will not be replacing each of the companies also having their own websites.
Makes sense. So appreciate your time, Chris. I hope to catch up with you soon. And thank you again for coming on and being an open book.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. This was great.
Appreciate you. I'm going to put you in the Bloom room for a second there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
So thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you for the people that did ask the questions. Again, this show is by the Floral community for the Floral community. So your support of clicking on that subscribe button and the alert key really means a lot to us. So some updates. We are excited, and give me a second. I want to do this slowly so I'm not jumping. We are excited to have the 5th annual Bloom Together event. Right here on my face is a QR code. Scan it. It'll take you to sign up as a sponsor. It'll give you an option as a sponsor and attendee. And what is that for? Why? Because the Bloom Together initiative started about 4 years ago during COVID. And this is the one of its kind industry event that 60 collaborating companies come together and they show their support and they celebrate networking, collaboration, and building community within the industry. The sponsors put in a small donation of $200, and that goes to making this 400-person event happen. And any leftovers is donated to American Floral Endowment and to Seed Your Future. So come out and show your support, hang out with us. People from around the world, and I literally mean from around the world, Holland and other places are coming just for the show, and they leave the next day. But do come out, Check it out. And we really would love to have you guys. It is on March 3rd, 7 to 11 p.m. If you have any questions, if you want to be an attendee or want to sponsor, then, and I call them collaborators, contributors, sign up here using your phone. Grab your phone out of your pocket, take a shot of this for later, or just screen QR code, and you can become an attendee or a sponsor. We are asking to sign up early because last year we had 400 people, 15 people at a time showing up from companies. So we are asking for pre-registration only. It'll mean a lot for you guys to help us out. Pre-registration only. We are going to be at Expo Floor, so very excited to be at Expo Floor. We are booked with all the sponsors, so we have up to 8. Some of our in-network that are part of our team, and then some new sponsors are coming on. Very happy to have that support, as this does take time and money to run. And we will be going to Esmeralda for an on-site interview, so keep an eye for that. And as well, keep an eye for the Deli Floor live, or Deli Floor on location Bloom show that we did during Chrysanthemum Week. That was very exciting, and you'll get a lot of information and get an insight into what it is to attend the Deli show during Chrysanthemum Week and see the people that were there, hang out at the party. It's a lot of fun. It's a 30-minute video, but you can put it on 2x speed and watch it, but you'll get a lot of insight and have a feeling that you're there. So keep an eye. We are going to launch that soon. And catch Carlos Aramas of Gems Group on November 5th at 1 p.m. So Carlos Aramas of the Gems Group, a company that is marketing first, will be on the show. So very excited to have him. I've been working on this for 2 to 3 years, and we finally got our schedules to work, and he's going to come on the show. And then we're also having Melinda Knuth and Charlie Har for our final show on November 26th at 1 p.m. That time and date might change, but keep an eye. That was one of our best shows ever because it comes from 2 leaders. One is pioneer and the other one is learning from the other, and it's just a great source of information coming from 2 angles, and we're very excited to bring everybody to the show. So again, thank you to everybody for joining. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate your time, your questions, and again, thank you to Chris Beals from Coronet for joining. And with that, I say goodbye. Take care. See you next time.
The Bloom Show. Innovate, connect, and bloom.